imagine doing something for once. It's a tough ask. I think.
I'm always busy. I don't want to do any more.
Okay, well, I mean about fixing the country.
Oh, right, fair enough.
If you were sat there with ultimate power, you were in government, that long, long goal, and then you thought, maybe I should do something with this.
No, you get into power and then you put your feet up, don't you, and wait for the money to flow in. That's how it works.
Well, seemingly. I mean, we'll start off just by looking at, I'm sure everyone is aware, but if you're not, here's the polls for the UK, and if we go 3 years, just to make it a bit more clear,
Oh,
you
dear
can see,
Lord.
look at that fall. Look at that brilliant fall of the Conservatives.
Labour's nearly at 50%.
Yeah, and we've beaten this horse to death. The only reason Labour's there is because Conservatives just disappeared from the realm, and
rightfully so.
You'd hope that reform would be much higher, but they're not. But the point being that if you're a Conservative minister or anything else, you just do nothing is seemingly the modus operandi. And now they've said, what if we did something? But that something is not very impressive. Well, we'll see why. And the something is, how about all those boat people, those illegal invaders?
No, I've never heard of them.
What if we didn't keep them in multi-million-pound hotels? I know it's a lot to ask. I know it's a radical solution.
But how are they going to enjoy the luxuries of Britain and decide on whether they're going to stay or not if we don't put them up in nice hotels, Callum?
It's they should go to multi-billion ones. That's the change you were talking about.
Yes, indeed. There is actually something to this. I remember, what was it, the British who arrested German officers. When we brought them to Britain, they wouldn't go to POW camps. We'd put them in really fancy country houses in the hope that they would start talking because they'd be relaxed, and they did. And we'd bugged all the rooms so we could hear stuff that was intelligence from imprisoning these guys. Well, anyway, the news is that they've decided that they're going to close a whole 50 hotels to the illegal invaders. Of 400 that are in use, so it's about 12%.
Isn't that going to affect the hotelier industry as well? As in, there's had to be loads more hotels open up just to mitigate for the offset of the government using them all for these boat people.
Find out who truly rules you. Find out who you cannot criticize. It's Premier Inn. Or Holiday Inn.
They've always ruled us, Callum.
Yeah. But they say in here, the hotel contract cost the taxpayer £8 million a day, which the immigration minister said it was unsustainable. Turns out, that's like £8 million a day is not the best use of money.
Wow, they must have really had all their accountants on that.
It turns out, because you always hear that figure go up every month. Like a couple months ago, there's this Daily Mail article talking about the Stockholm barge, this thing. So 2 months ago, it was £6 million a day. In 2 months, it went up $2 million a day. So every month, it goes up 1.5 million a day.
Blimey.
That's just fucking mental.
What does it run on? Melted gold?
Well, how much are you charging for these rooms? Is what I had in my mind.
Yeah, it looks like a floating prison from China. It doesn't look appealing.
Looks like an 8.
Well, how much would
Is it because it was 8 million per day? Yeah. Now they're going to have another 9.
They're sending us a signal. How much would you pay for this lovely room here? It's spacious.
I would ask for money. If someone told me to stay there.
Maybe 50 quid a night is, at a push. If I was desperate, £800
a night.
What on earth?
That's what this guy is charging the government.
What, for the barge?
Yeah.
What else?
Per migrant, 800 quid a night. Thank you very much.
You could ship them away on a cruise around the Med for that.
Bro, it's too expensive to deport them, but we will pay £800 a night for them.
Oh, wait, a night? Not even a month?
No, a night. To stay here, in this place.
If using the government to generate money that you wouldn't otherwise get hasn't been as obvious as possible, here it is.
Yeah. And we've gone over this guy before. I think he runs Clear Springs or some crap, I can't remember, but he makes millions off this, and people making millions off government stupidity is nothing new. But the big story is that they come out and said, we're going to close down a bunch of the hotels. We hear you. We realize that everyone hates us. So maybe we should do something nice, such as saving you money. Could just deport them all. It would be a better solution. But they said they're going to close down some hotels. Well, it turns out they're not going to close down the hotels where we live. In town, for example. We've mentioned previously, there's a bunch of hotels in Swindon that are like this, or any of the other ones that people have to deal with. Instead, the ones they're closing down are mansions. Turns out, I didn't know this, we'd been using various mansions across the country as hotels for illegal invaders.
That's Downton Abbey style. The next season is how they have a lot of people from the channel at Downton Abbey. It's Downton Abbey 2020.
Imagine seeing them all in their sort of period drama dress, having tea and cakes, and then there'll just be a Somali in the corner of the garden, squatting down, squeezing one out.
And then there's 5 guys who are speaking French from Burkina Faso, and then a couple of guys from Sudan who are speaking Arabic, and it's just like,
I'd be pulling the copper wire out of the house, probably.
Very much might be. But you can see here, this is the headline. Luxury mansions handed over to migrants will be closed. First under government crackdown. I said, how did it get this bad? Sorry, but this is like the level of corruption in this country is so ridiculous. Like, who is making millions of renting that to the Home Office? Because whoever owns it is making a fortune, for sure.
It's another terrible day to be a taxpayer.
Yeah, well, the details in here, I would say funny, but they're not. Which is, you expect, okay, maybe, okay, this might be an exaggeration, right? This thing here, this Queen's Palace-esque building, can't have actually been used for this. Turns out it was. So that's it's good news. Do you want to see it? You want to take a look?
Yes.
It's going to make me mad, but go ahead.
Oh, there should be another link in there, John. Apparently it's not been loaded, so we'll have to go back.
I like how I'm trapped in perpetual rent slavery while these losers are put up in these lovely mansions.
Yeah.
Contributed nothing.
So we're going to wait for John to just put the link in there. But this place is actually real. That's not the link that should be used. It should be Rochford Hall, that link, instead, which is the one for this one. It's the one that's previously mentioned, so the ones we can see. I get to that article real quick. My apologies. This one here. Because it has a ballroom, as you can see, at the left there. Because, of course, if you're a lowly Somalian who's just broken into the country, first thing on your mind is black tie.
Mm-hmm.
Why would it not be? There's
I mean, they probably did pack all of that, didn't they? I mean, we've seen them firsthand. Many of them are sort of fighting age young men with lots of designer clothes, their very own bicycle, which definitely isn't stolen, and a whole host of other luxuries you wouldn't expect of someone fleeing war.
So here we go. This is what happens if you Google that name. You get temporarily closed. I wonder why. You can suggest an edit. Full of invaders. Not usually the one. Here we go. This is
It looks lovely.
I don't know where you live. Probably not as nice as this.
No, I live in Swindon.
You know how you get this? You commit a crime. You break into a country.
I have genuinely been thinking that at this point, a prison cell is greater luxury than.
Well, I know they're probably not
state of working and living.
They're probably not being given this, right? They're probably given at least.
I don't think they're going for the full sort of.
But these are the rooms, like these are the bathrooms, etc. This is the living style.
To be fair, that bathroom isn't as nice as I thought it would be relative to the rest of the house. Still not bad.
But still, when you wake up in the morning and you walk outside into Swindon, what do you see? This?
It's a hive of scum and villainy, to quote Star Wars.
Yeah, you don't get to see utter beauty.
Like Tatooine, there are a bunch of sand people as well.
And that's not the only one. They say in here, others hired by the Home Office include the 4-star Tudor-style Great Hollingbury Manor in Essex. That's this one here. Which, again, for some reason, we're using this to house illegal invaders who have broken the law.
Lovely sort of traditional house. I imagine it's probably not authentic.
To make a good impression.
Yeah, we want to convince them to stay Stelios because they come from a nice warm country. They're not used to the weather.
It's 4 stars, that one.
Got to win them over, don't we?
Lovely dining hall. Fantastic. There's also a couple more. They say in here they also
is it breakfast included?
Breakfast included. I think breakfast is included.
All meals, yeah.
At least the ones we've seen previously. There should be another link in there, John, as well. The next place we're actually loading up, which is the 4-star Kahili Court, a Victorian country house hotel with a spa overlooking the Worthing Lakes in Wigan. I mean, to be fair, Wigan. But
that does sort of cancel out the spa.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry.
But to be fair,
the people of Wigan.
It's a bit unfair on Wigan. Because,
yeah, that was a bit harsh.
Yeah,
I retract my statement.
It's not fair. But can we get that up, John, or not? Because they put it in there. I don't know why it's not working. Nope. Well, never mind. Whatever then. It's beautiful, to say the least. I mean, you've already seen what's there. But they say this is going to save £250 million a year by not putting them in luxury manor houses.
You would have thought that would have been sort of day one. The one thing we don't want to do is put them in the most expensive accommodation in the country.
I want the person who suggested the luxury manor houses to be, I don't know, charged with crime? Crime against the British? Treason, maybe?
Okay, that's more like it. I was going to say, I was wondering where it was going when you just said, I think they should be charged with a crime.
And this sort of brings well, some context to this graph here. This is a graph showing cumulative arrivals by people crossing the English Channel in small boats. These are the invaders. And as you can see, it goes up, line go up, world not more good in this case.
It's almost like people realised it's not, I mean, there weren't really any world events to encourage this. It was just
it literally was, we'll put you in a mansion, please don't do it. It's not very convincing. And here's the data. So Migration Watch has the data. As you can see, it's now over, 111,000 people in 4 years? Fantastic. That's normal. That's something that literally never used to happen, as you can see here. But 2018, it's basically zero.
We should take the Chinese approach, which is when someone crosses into the border, the state seizes them and then steals their organs as recompense.
Is that the Chinese approach?
We would actually make a profit.
I'm not sure about that.
It happens to some people. It's not, who's really trying to break into China?
Fair. I mean, personally, I prefer the Russian approach I saw recently, which is they started conscripting illegal immigrants to go fight the war. And then there was a bunch of pro-Ukrainian accounts I follow, and they were tweeting this footage of the illegal aliens getting arrested and then conscripted. And their captions were all like, evil Putin has done this. And even their own audience were like, go back to Uzbekistan or...
So what I'm hearing is, if we want to finally get rid of this, we need to start a war somewhere.
Basically. I mean, it does kind of make sense as well, because you think, if you serve in the army for 3 years or whatever, fair enough, you can stay here. But if you literally just break in, well, yeah, we're in the army now. I don't know what else to do with it.
I suppose it's also a good test, because if you have absolutely nothing to offer, you're not coming back, are you?
Certainly. There is some data here as well that's of interest, which is just throughout the years, things have changed. As you can see there, the Iranians disappeared, and then various other groups.
Oh yeah, Vietnam, that famous war that definitely isn't now.
The other thing to keep in mind here is, of course, people lie because they throw their documents in the trash or in the sea. So I love this one here. Just that single year in which it was all Albanians for some reason.
2022 was a bad year for Albania. And by that, they ran out of drug money. So they had to come over here, get it firsthand.
And this year so far, we have a complete mix of people, including India. The Great Crisis of India. People fleeing the war in India.
Also, there are plenty of legal routes for Indians. It's not like we've got a shortage.
We hit 1 million every year of them. I think it's 500,000 Indians, sorry. That's about 1 million.
We've got a stockpile of Indians. We've got enough Indians that if the entire continent of India just disappeared, we could regrow India again.
I mean, we kind of have. There are some parts of London where I wonder if you did do like what's that figure for measuring populations basically being good, like GDI or whatever?
I have no idea.
I can't remember.
Okay, whatever. There's a figure
But you mean metric studying populations being good?
Basically, it's like Human Development Index or some crap like that, right?
Yeah.
Some UN statistic. I do wonder if you did that for the most Indian areas of London and then did it for India. I mean, you could make an argument that we basically have remade India in London and done a better job. Whole other conversation to be had. But back to this. Because the real concern about all of this is, okay, sounds cool. You're going to stop putting them in mansions. That's neat. So where are you going to put them? The answer has been on the streets. Great, thanks. That's fantastic.
1,000 asylum seekers could be homeless for Christmas. Only 1,000, and only in Birmingham. There should be more. Shouldn't they all be homeless?
Well, they all are homeless. They're just stealing houses from...
Apparently they are, yeah.
But I can't get over this. So the solution has been that they're going to stick them in council housing. And Birmingham Council here are whining because, well, we can't do that.
Yeah, we've already got enough homegrown parasites already. We don't need more.
And talking about people who are sponging off the taxpayer there. So the situation in Birmingham is uniquely Birmingham, I must say, though, which is that their unique problem is that the Home Office has decided in Birmingham that they must speed up the process. So a process that would usually take years to determine if the person is actually an asylum seeker, whether they're a piss taker, whether they're a terrorist. That never happens, except all the time.
I take it you heard about that story of the Hamas leader getting like a £120,000 grant to buy a house in London. It makes you so mad, doesn't it? It's just like 120 grand is a significant number times my net worth.
We give that to the leader of Hamas. But any local can go, I don't know, kill himself? What does it matter? I mean, their position is the natives should just die. But they say they're going to fast track these people instead. So they're going to do the process in a couple of months.
I'm sure it's going to be done well.
Yeah, I mean, don't you have faith in the people who let this all happen?
I'm sure the people who are working in the asylum claims are going to be very critical of what they're saying, and they're not going to take it at face value.
So Birmingham Council here, the reason they're particularly whining is they say that, well, as soon as they get an approval, they've got to find alternative accommodation. So please think of the councils, because what will we do?
Yeah, because they've never been known to waste money, have they?
But I mean, it's more the point that council housing, yeah, I mean, God, could you imagine if the British government instead decided to put loads of foreigners in the council housing instead of, I don't know, poor British people who need the help, the safety net we keep talking
I could
about?
never imagine that happening.
But
what is this crazy talk, Callum?
But I do want to get back to that point. You know, when we ever talk about liberalism and someone always says, oh, okay, there needs to be some kind of safety net for people who fall through the cracks or have a terrible time or something horrific happens to them and their family. Does that really exist?
Yeah, it's called family. You know, if I lost my job for some reason.
Sure, I get the libertarian argument.
You know,
family should be the one.
Yeah, well, I've always had the philosophy of you've got to wrong a lot of people to end up on the street. Like, you've got to alienate all of your friends and family and not have a sofa to sleep on to get there. So what have you done to do that?
I mean, to be honest, there is one thing. I've seen a short from Andrew Tate that was brilliant, where he just sits there and is like, could you imagine if you ended up homeless and then you've got 2 weeks on a friend's couch? You are not going to let that friend catch you sleeping. Like, what are you, an idiot? Because if even then, if you alienate him, like, okay, yeah, you deserve to be homeless.
Yeah, I mean, you would do like their housework. They'd come home, their house would be immaculate. You'd be like, I really appreciate this. Do you want me to go do your shopping for you?
It's either that or you want to be homeless.
Yeah, you want to make it as easy as possible for that person to keep you there, right?
And don't get me wrong, I get that argument. But the usual thing we all end up agreeing on, or at least I say we, I mean like society, is like, oh, well, there should be some social safety net for, I don't know, single moms or some crap. Well, there isn't one really, because we have the data. As you can see here, 48% of households that are social housing in London are now headed by someone who's not born in the UK. And this guy here has learned what we've been saying for about 2-3 years. Supply may matter, but it won't resolve the housing crisis until we tackle demand. That social safety net we've built in this country doesn't exist for the native population. About half of it doesn't exist for the native population. But half of it exists for foreigners at this point. The welfare state isn't even looking after the welfare of the people in the state.
Or the people paying taxes. Well, almost certainly not the people paying taxes.
But it was never for people paying taxes.
And it should be.
Make the argument. But even if you're like some social democrat who's like, well, you know, we need a strong safety net for poor people who blah, 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 blah. Okay, whatever. Even if you conceded that point, in the modern age, it's not even for the poor people of this country in the slightest. Literally half of it at this point is for foreigners. Never mind.
It's also the future. There's also the fact that, you know, poverty is defined as having one flat screen and maybe not a car. It's like, come on.
And this is also creating, you know, just a bomb for taxpayers.
Oh, yeah. As well as other bombs, depending on where they're coming from.
But I just can't get over the absolute state of this country. It's just friggin' comical that not only are we giving out apparently 100 grand grants to members of Hamas to buy housing here, we will literally give foreigners free housing, half of our free housing, in fact.
I imagine in London, yeah.
Because when they build a new estate as well, you expand the town, build a load of new housing. There's requirements that some percentage of it has to be social housing.
Which is awful, by the way, because you buy a house and then you live next to some entitled proles that are going to ruin your time. It's like, I worked hard to finally be able to buy a house, and then there's some scumbag across the road.
It's such a stuck-up posh Brit. I love it.
Yeah, one of my friends, you know, bought a house in his 20s, and he lived opposite a council house, and the person in the council house thought that he parked his car outside of his driveway, which isn't his, it's supplied by the government. So he put a nail underneath his motorbike's tyre, and he saw him doing it, and he confronted the bloke.
What happened?
Well, he told him not to do it, and said, if I catch you doing it again, I'll call the police.
I know what you mean, because we had, in my town, they opened a new estate, and some family friends of ours moved into that new estate, and they paid $500,000 for the house, because they're like accountants or something. They made loads of money. And then right next to them on both sides were council houses. And even as a child, I looked at that, I just thought, how? Exactly. Are you meant to justify that? Like, you've paid so much money to live in a nice new area, and the next to you is people who just get free.
Yeah, ghettos are a human right. That's my opinion.
That's the government's standard of where everyone should live. But it's not only will you get now some guys next to you who got it for free and are kind of just paying the ass. Instead, you will have Rahim and Kaham, who have come from Sudan, and they get that house because literally the social safety net is for them, not for us. But I'll end this off just with a quick mention of the Americans, because they've got a bit worse saying that. Just wanted to keep an update on just how bad America's getting at this point.
Oh, southern border situation's appalling at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah. Like, I think we left off back when it was like here or something, and it's got even worse. You can see these months here, 250,000 per month, over 250,000.
Absolutely.
It is so bad there that even some Democrats have started talking against the federal government.
Well, yeah, I saw some Democrats saying, actually, we do need to build the wall. And I was just like, oh, how long has it been? It's only taken, 7 years for people to actually agree?
It's weird. There was an incident in New York that there were some buses sent from Texas.
Oh, that was Greg Abbott, yeah.
Yes, and the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, was saying that, it's a problem now. We can't do it. We can't live. So many people can't live here.
Can't live like this. Why? Because so much diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, population density in New York. I mean, it's unconscionable.
But do you remember also the other community in Chicago? There was a black community. 97% voted for Democrats, and then after a while, they were complaining about lots of illegal immigrants being housed right next to them, and they were saying, "We have lived here for so many generations."
Yeah. Who else has lived in this country for so many generations? But only one group's allowed to do it in the United States, as you say. And it's not. I just round up the numbers here just to end this off, which is you've got several million there. I think 6 million almost, plus the 1 million illegals as well. So in the Biden years so far, about more than 2% of the population has been ethnically replaced there. And well, you literally can put it down to opinion polling as well. The damage that's been done there. This is just an article from The Hill looking at illegal immigration, not even legal. Look at this. This is a graph over the years from the 2000s. Views on it, whether or not you care about illegal immigration. Just the Democrats, nope, never. Just continuously going down.
That's a testament to how effective propaganda has gotten, because in the early 2000s, that the Democrats and the Republicans were somewhat similar, weren't they? And the Democrats took a very different line. And over time, clearly the brainwashing has worked. And of course, back then, the sort of disapproval or approval or what have you would have been lower because it was less of an issue. So just like, oh, I don't really care. So that's probably
and
why.
There's a huge dive from 50 to 34. They're close to 2017 to 2018. And I think that this was the whole anti-Trump agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Almost certainly. Yeah. But I love how the problem gets worse, the Republicans get more worried. The problem gets worse, Democrats are happier. They score that. But anyway, there we are. Could you imagine doing something? If you're the British government, apparently not. Apparently you're going to move people from luxury mansions into council housing on everyone's new estates instead. Yeah, that'll be a vote winner. I mean, I'm sorry, but like, both of those are so awful in a policy point. You deserve political death.
I want to throw something. That's my intelligent political commentary for today.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Brokenomics series, this episode on what exactly Western governments are up to. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.